As global trade tensions escalate, China has issued a stark warning to other nations regarding their negotiations with the United States. On April 21, 2025, China's Commerce Ministry firmly stated that any trade deals made at China's expense would not be tolerated, threatening corresponding countermeasures against those who engage in such agreements. This sentiment reflects China's ongoing struggle to navigate a landscape increasingly shaped by President Donald Trump's aggressive tariff policies. The backdrop of this warning involves a complex web of trade negotiations, particularly as countries like Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea seek to secure favorable arrangements with the U.S. in light of Trump's imposition of steep tariffs on a vast array of imports. The situation has been further complicated by Trump's recent announcement of a dramatic 145% tariff on Chinese goods, which has elicited a reciprocal response from Beijing, resulting in a 125% tariff on U.S. imports. This tit-for-tat escalation has not only rattled markets but also raised concerns about a broader economic fallout. China's response underscores its determination to protect its economic interests. A spokesperson from the Commerce Ministry stated China firmly opposes any party reaching a deal at the expense of China's interests. If this happens, China will never accept it and will resolutely take countermeasures in a reciprocal manner. This statement encapsulates China's approach. While it remains open to dialogue with the U.S., it is equally prepared to defend its position vigorously. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has previously urged nations negotiating with the U.S. to consider a unified approach towards China, suggesting that collective discussions might yield better outcomes. However, China's ministry cautioned that negotiations driven by temporary selfish interests, particularly those that sacrifice the interests of others for tariff exemptions, would ultimately lead to failure and broader harm. Appeasement cannot bring peace and compromise cannot win respect, the ministry asserted, emphasizing the futility of undermining China for short-term gains. The implications of these developments extend beyond the immediate realm of trade. The ongoing tariffs have created significant uncertainty for exporters and have stalled shipments, threatening to derail global economic recovery efforts. Analysts warn that if the conflict continues to escalate, it may exacerbate existing challenges faced by economies worldwide, potentially leading to a downturn. As the situation unfolds, the international community will be closely monitoring the dynamics between China and the U.S. The potential for expanded talks remains, but with both sides entrenched in their positions, the path forward is fraught with complexities. Observers are left wondering whether dialogue can prevail over discord, or if the cycle of retaliation will further entrench the economic rift between these two global giants. Future negotiations will undoubtedly shape not only the economic landscape but also the geopolitical climate, highlighting the critical need for diplomacy in these turbulent times. In an era marked by escalating tensions between the United States and China, the phenomenon dubbed China Shock 2.0 is poised to disrupt global markets profoundly. As the world's largest exporter, China is ramping up its exports amid domestic economic challenges, resulting in an unprecedented influx of Chinese goods worldwide. This surge is not merely a byproduct of trade dynamics but a strategic maneuver by Beijing to counteract its significant economic downturn, particularly following a major real estate crisis. Experts predict that the ramifications of this renewed trade wave could rival the original China shock that reshaped global trade dynamics in the early 2000s. China's trade surplus has skyrocketed, reaching nearly $1 trillion last year, over double the figure recorded in 2019. This increase is largely attributed to a massive state-driven push to bolster manufacturing, supported by $1.9 trillion in loans from state-controlled banks to industrial sectors over the past 4 years. New factories are springing up daily and existing ones are undergoing enhancements to boost productivity, driving China's factory output to levels surpassing those of the US, Germany, Japan, South Korea, and the UK combined. Amidst this backdrop, Michael Pettis, a finance professor at Peking University, warns that the real fireworks have yet to begin. As China seeks to redirect approximately $400 billion worth of goods to markets beyond its traditional trading partner, the United States. The historical context of China's entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001 provides a cautionary tale. Initially heralded as a step towards economic integration and potential political liberalization, China's accession instead solidified the Communist Party's grip on power. In the U.S., while consumers enjoyed lower prices and job growth in the service sector, manufacturing suffered dramatically, with studies indicating that trade with China led to the loss of 1 million manufacturing jobs between 2001 and 2011. "We didn't see people picking up and moving to better opportunities," noted economist David Otter, emphasizing the long-term impacts on regions heavily reliant on manufacturing. The impending wave of Chinese goods threatens to affect numerous countries beyond the U.S. Catherine Tai, the U.S. trade representative under President Biden, remarked. "The tsunami is coming for everyone." The ripple effects are already being felt, with Indonesia's textile sector losing 250,000 jobs in the past 2 years and projections indicating further losses. Emerging economies like Brazil and India are grappling with the challenge of competing against China's dominance in sectors such as electronics and renewable energy. China's burgeoning electric vehicle industry, led by companies like BYD, poses a significant threat to established automotive powerhouses like Germany. To counteract the anticipated flood of Chinese imports, many countries are implementing protective measures. Brazil has introduced a 35% tariff on Chinese fiber optic cables, while Indonesia has levied a staggering 200% tax on Chinese textile imports. Mexico and India are also taking steps to scrutinize and potentially restrict Chinese goods. However, the dilemma is complex. Many developing nations benefit from Chinese investments in infrastructure, which complicates efforts to impose trade barriers. As Deborah Elms of the Hinrich Foundation pointedly remarked, "Do you really want to complain over shoes when someone's building you a port?" Despite the challenges posed by China's export surge, there are indications that domestic consumer spending in China may be on the rise, though it remains insufficient to absorb the excess goods produced. Consumption accounts for only 53% of China's GDP, significantly below the global average of 72%. The Chinese government has started to announce stimulus measures aimed at bolstering domestic demand, an effort that may require more aggressive policies moving forward. While the Trump administration's tariffs were designed to shield American industries, the effectiveness of such measures remains uncertain. Historically, Chinese manufacturers have circumvented tariffs by relocating production to countries like Vietnam, a trend that has been evident even before the current trade conflict. The interconnectedness of global supply chains complicates the situation, as offshore manufacturing often still relies on components from China, allowing for continued access to U.S. markets at reduced tariff rates. The socio-economic landscape in China further complicates matters. After years of growth, the country is grappling with the aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic and a real estate crisis, leading to a rise in youth unemployment and a culture of frugality. As households prioritize savings amid uncertain economic prospects, consumer spending remains muted. Su Tianchen, an analyst at the Economist Intelligence Unit, noted that increased security regarding financial well-being would likely enhance consumer confidence, suggesting that the Chinese government's focus on stimulating demand may eventually yield results. As the world watches the unfolding drama of China Shock 2.0, the potential for significant shifts in the global economic landscape looms large. Trade dynamics are evolving rapidly, and countries must navigate the complexities of protecting their interests while remaining open to the opportunities that global trade presents. With a confluence of economic pressures and geopolitical tensions, the path forward is fraught with uncertainty, making it clear that the global market is in for a turbulent ride. Future developments will surely hinge on how various nations respond to the challenges posed by this new wave of Chinese exports and the broader implications for international trade relations. As the trade war between the United States and China escalates, new developments suggest that China may have made a significant misstep in its approach. Recent statements from the Chinese government indicate a growing concern over the U.S. leveraging tariffs not only as a tool against China but as a means to pressure other countries into limiting their trade ties with Beijing. This strategic shift marks a critical juncture in the ongoing economic conflict, raising questions about the future landscape of global trade. On April 21, 2025, China's Commerce Ministry accused the U.S. of abusing tariffs and warned nations against striking economic deals at China's expense. This warning comes amid reports that the Trump administration is preparing to pressure countries seeking tariff relief to curb trade with China. The United States has abused tariffs on all trading partners under the banner of so-called equivalence, the ministry stated, underscoring Beijing's resolve to respond with resolute and reciprocal measures against any nations that comply with U.S. demands. The stakes are high as the Trump administration continues to increase tariffs on Chinese goods, now reaching as high as 145%. In retaliation, China has imposed its own tariffs of 125% on U.S. exports. This tit-for-tat has created a complex web of economic repercussions that threatens to destabilize not only the two economies but also the global market. As financial markets react to these developments, U.S. stocks have seen significant declines, with major indices dropping sharply due to investor fears of a prolonged trade conflict. Economists and analysts are grappling with the uncertainty brought on by these tariffs. Colin Grabeau from the Cato Institute predicts that tariffs will likely be higher in 2028 than they were when Trump took office, reflecting an ongoing trend of increasing protectionism. He notes that the current tariff policies have generated a landscape where businesses are left guessing about future costs, hindering their ability to make informed decisions about investments and operations. Meanwhile, other experts like Josh Bivens from the Economic Policy Institute emphasize the damaging consequences of such unpredictability. They warn that the current tariff environment is likely to create more losers than winners, with small businesses particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of rising import costs. This sentiment is echoed by Ryan Peterson, CEO of Flexport, who asserts that many small businesses could face bankruptcy if current tariff policies persist. As the Trump administration navigates this tumultuous landscape, a series of meetings with international leaders and major U.S. retailers are underway to discuss the impact of these tariffs. President Trump has expressed optimism about reaching deals that could ease the burden on American consumers, hinting at possible delays in implementing certain tariffs on consumer goods. However, this optimism is tempered by ongoing volatility and the reality that many companies are already feeling the pinch from increased costs. In the broader context, China's response to U.S. tariffs reflects its strategic priorities in maintaining trade relations and regional influence. President Xi Jinping's recent diplomatic efforts in Southeast Asia underscore the significance of this region as a counterbalance to U.S. pressure, with ASEAN nations being significant trading partners for both China and the U.S. The outcome of this trade war will likely have lasting implications for the economic dynamics in Asia and beyond. As the situation continues to evolve, the future of U.S.-China trade relations remains uncertain. With tariffs expected to persist and potentially escalate, businesses and consumers alike are left navigating a precarious economic landscape. The unfolding drama of this trade war not only shapes the fortunes of the two nations involved but also reverberates through global markets, affecting economies worldwide. As both sides prepare for ongoing negotiations, the hope is for a resolution that can restore stability and predictability in international trade. In an era marked by escalating geopolitical tensions and rapid advancements in military technology, the recent developments concerning China's military capabilities and international partnerships have garnered significant attention. As nations around the world recalibrate their defense strategies, China is making notable strides in both military reform and international diplomacy, signaling a pivotal moment in its quest for regional influence and global standing. On April 21, 2025, China and Indonesia took a significant step in strengthening their bilateral ties through the inaugural meeting of the Joint Foreign and Defense Ministerial Dialogue in Beijing. This high-level dialogue was co-chaired by Wang Yi, China's Foreign Minister, and Defense Minister Dong Jun, alongside their Indonesian counterparts Foreign Minister Sugiono and Defense Minister Shafri Shamsuddin. The meeting underscored the increasing strategic trust between the two nations, which has been bolstered by recent high-level exchanges between their leaders. Wang Yi emphasized the importance of this dialogue, stating that it reflects the high level of strategic mutual trust between China and Indonesia. This sentiment was echoed by analysts who view the dialogue as a milestone in bilateral relations, enhancing communication and cooperation in a region often challenged by external pressures and conflicts. Observers suggest that the establishment of this dialogue mechanism could serve as a model for fostering stability and addressing regional disparities amidst global turbulence. Meanwhile, attention is also focused on China's military advancements, particularly the J-20 Mighty Dragon stealth fighter. Introduced in 2018, the J-20 has faced scrutiny regarding its design origins, with allegations of espionage and potential replication of American technologies, specifically the F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II. Isaac cites, a defense columnist, reports that while there are visual similarities between the J-20 and its U.S. counterparts, significant differences, such as its canard delta wing configuration, distinguish it from a mere copycat. Performance evaluations of the J-20 reveal a complex picture. While it boasts superior payload capacity and range, the F-22 maintains an edge in stealth maneuverability and advanced avionics. Experts like former Acting Under-Secretary of Defense James Anderson have highlighted the uncertainty surrounding the J-20's combat capabilities against the F-22, noting that without real-world testing, definitive conclusions remain elusive. The ongoing discourse surrounding the J-20 underscores broader concerns about military transparency and the arms race in the Asia-Pacific region. The simultaneous development of military capabilities in diplomatic dialogues illustrates China's multifaceted approach to expanding its influence. The recent discussions between China and Indonesia included commitments to enhance cooperation in defense, maritime security, and law enforcement, aiming to tackle transnational challenges such as cybercrime and terrorism. This strategic partnership, particularly in the context of the ongoing U.S.-Philippines military drills in the South China Sea, highlights the contrasting approaches of regional powers to security and stability. As China continues to assert itself on the global stage through military advancements and strategic partnerships, the implications for regional dynamics and global security frameworks will be profound. The intertwining of defense capabilities and diplomatic efforts signals a new chapter in international relations, one that will require careful navigation by all involved parties. With the 70th anniversary of the Bandung Conference looming, the potential for renewed Asian cooperation and regional stability is both a challenge and an opportunity for China and its neighbors. The coming months will undoubtedly reveal how these developments unfold and shape the future landscape of international diplomacy and military strategy. In a significant diplomatic overture, China is urging Indonesia to unite against the rising tide of protectionism, particularly in the context of the escalating trade war with the United States. During a press conference on April 21, 2025, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi articulated this call for collaboration following the inaugural 2+2 dialogue between the foreign and defense ministers of both nations in Beijing. Wang's remarks reflect an urgent desire for economic integration and stability amid a backdrop of global economic uncertainty. "We should oppose any form of unilateralism and protectionism," Wang stated, emphasizing the damaging effects of tariff abuses on international trade. He stressed the importance of maintaining supply chain stability and safeguarding the rights of nations within the global South. This dialogue is particularly notable as it marks China's first such engagement with Indonesia, underscoring Beijing's strategic push to strengthen ties with Southeast Asia in response to growing geopolitical rivalries. Indonesia, as the largest member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) and a key trading partner for China, has recently become an increasingly pivotal player in global economic discussions. The country formally joined the BRICS grouping of emerging economies in January, further solidifying its role in international economic forums. Wang's appeal to counter-protectionism is not just a diplomatic gesture, it is a strategic alignment as both nations navigate the complexities of global trade amidst rising tensions with the U.S. The context of this dialogue is critical. The U.S.-China trade war has intensified with both nations imposing aggressive tariffs on each other's goods. Chinese officials including Ambassador Xiefeng have drawn historical parallels to the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 which exacerbated the Great Depression. Xia warned that current U.S. tariffs could lead to similar economic repercussions, highlighting the interconnectedness of global economies where unilateral actions can have far-reaching consequences. China's current tariff burden on American goods has soared to an alarming 145%, prompting a retaliatory response that includes imposing 125% tariffs on American imports. This tit-for-tat escalation has raised concerns about the stability of global supply chains, particularly in sectors such as high-tech manufacturing where essential materials like rare earth elements are at stake. Amid these rising tensions, Xi's remarks in Washington serve as a clarion call for balanced economic policies. By invoking principles from traditional Chinese medicine, he metaphorically suggested that addressing domestic economic issues should not lead to scapegoating foreign nations. You can't just treat a headache by just focusing on the head, he remarked, advocating for a holistic approach to international relations that prioritizes cooperation over confrontation. As the U.S. navigates its trade policies, the implications of this ongoing conflict extend beyond bilateral relations. The global economy, still reeling from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, faces potential stagnation if the tariff war persists. Economists caution that increasing tariffs could stifle growth, elevate consumer prices, and diminish investor confidence, thereby affecting not just China and the U.S. but also countries intertwined with their economic activities. Looking ahead, the dynamics of U.S.-China relations will likely continue to evolve, influenced by both domestic policies and international pressures. As Wang Yi and his Indonesian counterparts push for a cooperative stance against protectionism, the need for diplomatic engagement becomes increasingly crucial. The world watches closely, recognizing that the outcomes of these discussions may shape the future of global trade and economic collaboration for years to come.